Indeed. We are live!
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Oh, I didn't bring my good cup. Sorry.
Hmm,
We can
that's
still
okay. I usually don't.
click.
Sci-fi cafe.
I
Cool.
know, right? It
I'm
was
I'm
it
not
was
gonna pet you right now.
flag at a con back when we had those.
I
I miss
remember
those,
this.
right?
Yeah. Someday.
Indeed. I feel like a dipshit mom though, because when lockdown started, to keep Avi interested in creating and stuff, I was like, what's your dream costume? And we talked about it for a while, and he eventually settled on a Pokemon. In fact, specifically an EV Viking.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted EV Vikings all around, and I was like, "Well, do it!" And I've gotten the helmet done, and that's it. Like, I made the tunic, and we didn't like it, so I started remaking the tunic, and then it all got bogged down and forgotten about. Like,
Well, that's the creative process, but also you got time because there ain't gonna be any cons for quite a while.
right? Oh, he's excited about starting school. Everybody else started a couple weeks ago, but we're going to an online school, and he's and that one starts right after Labor Day, as the gods intended.
Indeed.
No, cool. Um,
Mm. All right. I gotta find out where we are in this book.
indeed.
Do 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 do. Oh, we are definitely not that far along. Cat. So there's a cat right here, by the way. There she
Hello,
is.
Cat.
That's
Nice.
Echo. She
Not
is pawing me, trying to get me to pet her, and I don't have hands for you right now. But also, you're fine.
yeah, Hup. One of his less endearing traits. So he's peeing in the house, but all new dogs do that. We'll get him trained out of that. But he's really obsessed with burrowing. I think
Mm-hmm.
that might be the dachshund coming out in him, because I have never seen a chihuahua be like this. But if I'm laying in bed, he wants to be under those covers. He's nuts about it. It just goes, and I have to like lock down the blanket like this, because I don't want a tiny little easily breakable body with a cold nose anywhere near my body while I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Deet's been training him. We've caught her a couple of times, like snapping at him when he pees, or there was some other thing he did that she gave him hell for. She's definitely the alpha, because he rolls over for her a lot more often than she rolls over for him, and so he might actually listen to her.
I'm telling you, he's Deet's
Right?
dog.
Exactly, and it's about time. I hope he's happier now.
Indeed.
Oh, did you see? I think you saw that I had finished Nickel.
Yes, I think I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah. Um, I brought him out because there's some details I want to fix, but I also brought out Zinc. And we were at tell us some more or sing us one of the songs. Yes, indeed I will, said Treebeard.
Mm,
Tomorrow we have councils to call and work to do and maybe a journey to begin.
oh, there we go. Okay. Excuse me one moment. Cat, shoo. She's clawed my elbow about 80,000 times. Not necessary. Highly unnecessary, in fact.
Show me love.
No, she does the like pat pat, and then you don't do anything, and then she does the like claw claw, and you're like, I'm not rewarding this behavior.
Nope. This is going to be Zinc.
Is he fishing?
Sort of. He's got his beard dripping in water. He'll be holding coin in
Nice.
both hands like this and smiling. There's this row of the table is going to have a lot of like little old men smiling genially.
As one does.
It's just, yeah, it's just a thing.
All right. So we're talking about the Entwives.
Yes.
It is rather a sad, strange, and sad story, he went on after a pause. When the world was young and the woods were wide. Have we talked about the fact that Treebeard talks a lot? This entire.
Yeah, I think you can speed him up a bit.
Yeah, I will, because the entire next 5 pages are Treebeard talking. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
When the world was young and the woods were wide and wild, the Ents and the Entwives, and there were Ent maidens then, ah, the loveliness of Fimbrethil, of Wandlim the light-footed in the days of our youth. They walked together and they housed together, but our hearts did not go on growing in the same way. The Ents gave their love to things that they met in the world, and the Entwives gave their thought to other things. For the Ents loved the great trees and the wild woods and the slopes of the high hills. And they drank of the mountain streams, and ate only such fruit as the trees let fall in their path. And they learned of the elves, and spoke with the trees. But the Entwives gave their minds to the lesser trees, and to the meads in the sunshine beyond the feet of the forests. And they saw the sloe in the thicket, and the wild apple and cherry blossoming in spring, and the green herbs in the waterlands in summer, and the seeding grasses in the autumn fields. They did not desire to speak with these things, but they wished them to hear and obey what was said to them. The Entwives ordered them to grow according to their wishes, and bear leaf and fruit to their liking. For the Entwives desired order and plenty and peace, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them.
Yeah,
That's a mood.
editorial there, right?
Hmm?
Like a little bit of an editorial there, a little slant. They wanted control. They were controlling bitches, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think that's what he means, but then again, I have a lot of sympathy with the desire for things to remain where you set them.
Yeah, no shit. Not to mention, like the whole they invented agriculture, and this dude is like, yeah, I don't get it.
Well, yeah, of course he is. Yeah, the word dude was the key there. So the Entwives made gardens to live in, but we Ents went on wandering, and we only came to the gardens now and again. Then when the darkness came in the north, the Entwives crossed the great river, and made new gardens, tilled new fields, and we saw them more seldom. After the darkness was overthrown, the land of the Entwives blossomed richly, and their fields were full of corn. Many men learned the crafts of the Entwives and honored them greatly, but we were only a legend to them, a secret in the heart of the forest. Yet here we still are, while all the gardens of the Entwives are wasted. Men call them the Brown Lands now. I remember it was long ago, in the time of the war between Sauron and the Men of the Sea. Desire came over me to see Fimbrethil again. Very fair she was still in my eyes when I had last seen her, though little like the Ent maiden of old. For the Entwives were bent and browned by their labor, their hair parched by the sun to the hue of ripe corn, and their cheeks like red apples. Yet their eyes were still the eyes of our own people. We crossed over Anduin and came to their land, but we found a desert. It was all burned and uprooted, for war had passed over it. There's a fly in here if you see me flailing my hands. Also, this is sort of a bringing to mind this scene in Fury Road where they go to the green place, but it's like just a poisoned marsh.
Yeah. Like, damn it.
But the Entwives were not there. Seriously, this fly is like right up in my business. God's sakes. The Entwives were not there. Long we called and long we searched, and we asked all folk that we met which way the Entwives had gone. Some said they had never seen them, and some said that they had seen them walking away west, some said east, and others south. But nowhere that we went could we find them. Our sorrow was very great, yet the wild wood called and we returned to it. For many years we used to go out every now and again and look for the Entwives, walking far and wide and calling them by their beautiful names. But as time passed we went more seldom and wandered less far. And now the Entwives are only a memory for us, and our beards are long and grey. The elves made many songs concerning the search of the Ents, and some of the songs passed into the tongues of men. But we made no songs about it, being content to chant their beautiful names when we thought of the Entwives. We believe that we may meet again in a time to come, and perhaps we shall find somewhere a land where we can live together and both be content. But it is foreboded that that will only be when we have both lost all that we now have. And it may well be that that time is drawing near at last. For if Sauron of old destroyed the gardens, the enemy today seems likely to wither all the woods. There was an elvish song that spoke of this, or so I understand it. It used to be sung up and down the great river. It was never an Entish song, mark you. It would have been a very long song in Entish. But we know it by heart and hum it now and again. This is how it runs in your tongue, as soon as I swat this goddamn.
Yeah, I'm on a hunt because Zinc needs to be sitting on a sculpture here, and I never did decide what the sculpture should be of. I want it to be something.
My brain is like, well, I have a thimble made of zinc.
A zinc thimble.
I don't know why it's made of zinc. That was one of the selling points. I don't know why that's good.
Right. Well, it doesn't tarnish easily. It's a tough little guy. It just it's one of the components in bronze or brass. See, now I need my note. I might. I'll go get my notes while Treebeard sings his song.
I'm not reading the whole song, but I'll read a little bit of it and can continue.
Right.
So the song is a conversation between an Ent and an Entwife. It begins with the Ent saying, "When spring unfolds the beechen leaf and sap is in the bough. Blah, blah, blah. Come back to me, and say my land is fair." And the Entwife says, "When spring is come to garth and field and corn is in the blade, I'll linger here and will not come because my land is fair." So on and so forth. They're just arguing about whose home is better.
Yeah.
Treebeard ended his song. "That is how it goes," he said. "It is elvish, of course. Light-hearted, quick-worded, and soon over." I did. Wow. I dare say it is fair enough, but the Ents could say more on their side if they had time. Okay. All right, bro. But now I'm going to stand up and take a little sleep. Where will you stand? "We usually lie down to sleep," said Mary. "We shall be all right where we are." "Lie down to sleep," said Treebeard. "Why, of course you do. I was forgetting. Singing that song put me in mind of old times. Almost I thought that I was talking to young Entlings. Almost thought that I was talking to young Entings, I did. Well, you can lie on the bed. I am going to stand in the rain. Good night."
Brass. It is a component of brass.
A lot of statues made of brass.
I know, right? But what would be the one? The one for zinc.
What does zinc mean?
Talisman. I figured that was nicely all-encompassing because it's household castable. It's what you make sacrificial rods out of for like bridges and things so that the iron doesn't rust. It's just sort of good luck in all of the things it's being used in. So I'm like, I can do this. Do zinc.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll think about it.
Oh, see, that's fun. Check this out. That is a zinc crow's foot used in early batteries.
Huh. Cool.
I had to just use that as like a component of the sculpture and make up my own damn sculpture. Yeah.
Yeah. All
And
right.
then the poor people who are fans of Zinc will be like, ah!
You know, I'd like to say like there's nobody who's just a Zinc fan. And then I was like, first of all, there absolutely is. I'm very sure.
Right?
And second of all, I follow an Instagram account called Lichens IRL. So I'm not really one to talk.
Are we talking about like lichens that grow on
On rocks, yes.
rocks, not lycanthropes?
No, no, that would be a different. I would follow that one too, but that's not what this one is. I started following this Tumblr account that's like a botany student who's really into lichen, and it turns out lichens are pretty cool.
They
So then I
really are.
started following this Instagram.
That's perfectly reasonable.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right, where are we here?
No.
Treebeard is going outside to sleep in the rain.
Yeah.
Merry and Pippin climbed onto the bed and curled up in the soft grass and fern. It was fresh and sweet-scented and warm. The lights died down and the glow of the trees faded, but outside under the arch they could see old Treebeard standing, motionless, with his arms raised above his head. The bright stars peered out of the sky and lit the falling water as it spilled onto his fingers and head and drip, drip, dripped in hundreds of silver drops onto his feet. Listening to the tinkling of the drops, the hobbits fell asleep. They woke to find a cool sun shining into the great court and onto the floor of the bay. Shreds of high cloud were overhead, running on a stiff easterly wind. Treebeard was not to be seen, but while Merry and Pippin were bathing in the basin by the arch, they heard him humming and singing as he came up the path between the trees. "Ho, ho! Good morning, Merry and Pippin," he boomed when he saw them. "You sleep long. I have been many 100 strides already today. Now we will have a drink
You
and
done.
go to Entmeat. Go to Entmoot.
I've walked many 100 strides. What have you done with your day?
Absolutely nothing. He poured them out 2 full bowls from a stone jar, but from a different jar. The taste was not the same as it had been the night before. It was earthier and richer, more sustaining and food-like, so to speak. While the hobbits drank, sitting on the edge of the bed and nibbling small pieces of elf cake, more because they felt that eating was a necessary part of breakfast than because they felt hungry, Treebeard stood, humming in Entish or Elvish or some strange tongue, and looking up at the sky. I feel like that's really relatable. Like, there's certain things that need to be part of breakfast.
Yeah, there are.
Even if you're not like I have to have hot tea in the morning. Iced tea won't work. Cold drinks, it's not, no. We've lost Robin. I think she accidentally hung up. She should be back shortly. In the meantime, cold drinks for breakfast are just not at all. Just no. I'm just going to keep reading. She'll be back. So they felt that eating was a necessary part of breakfast. And Treebeard was looking at the sky.
No matter how hot it is, outside, morning requires a hot drink.
Yes, exactly. And
sorry I hit the X there.
Yeah, I figured. If someone offered, like, the caffeine in tea is part of it, but if someone gives me the exact same tea but iced, it's not. No, it's not the same.
No, indeed. And I'm going through a coffee phase because my black teas were giving me stomach aches. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm willing to listen to my body and just go with it. I figure when the weather gets colder, I'll get, I don't know, I'm missing enzymes. I'm figuring somewhere in my gut I'm missing biodiversity.
Live fermented foods. What a shame about Bon Appetit. I really enjoyed that show. Well, I really enjoyed a couple of their shows, but.
And at least we have the backlog.
Yeah, but I don't want to give them any more hits because they're being dicks.
They are being dicks. It's true. I feel similar about Cracked. Like Cracked had a really nice lineup. I loved all those writers. I loved all those commentators on culture. And then their parent company was like, this isn't worth anything, and disbanded it. And then 2 years later they were like, actually, we were getting a lot of hits. Let's resurrect it, but now it feels manufactured. It doesn't feel grown anymore. It feels contrived. And I'm like, I don't know anything about the guy that's hosting. I know that he's sounds exactly like all the old writers of this show, but it doesn't feel genuine anymore. So, and and I feel like it would feel more genuine if their first thing was him saying, "Hey, here's who I am. Here's why I write this way. I am a big old fan of all of the old crew too, and I wish we could get them back. If we get enough hits, maybe they'll be tempted." But no, they just started making videos of the old style with no explanation. Like, no one
I
will
didn't
know.
even I didn't even know Cracked was back. Like, this is news to me completely.
Yeah, that's because it's not very watchable. I mean, it is because yeah, it feels a Xerox. If anyone's listening, if that guy wants to come out with an actual message, like here's who I am and what I'm doing and why, I'll take it.
I've just been watching more individual creators. I've been watching a bunch of Nerdy Crafter. I've been watching
Well, I love Mariah Elizabeth with Abby.
nice. I haven't watched any Mariah Elizabeth yet. I know that they're friends, but
right?
have not.
She's cute. She's kind of abrasive, but adorably so. And she's left-handed, so I have a soft spot for her.
I gotta be honest, Sika is my favorite over Jackie in the Nerdy Crafter videos.
God, she reminds me of you.
Maybe that's why she's my favorite. Their interactions do remind me a lot of you and me.
Yes. Oh man, yeah, and we watch Laura Kampf and we watch David Picciuto and Mark Spagnolo and sometimes Adam Savage. His videos are really long.
I haven't watched any of them in particular. I mostly do Nerdy Crafter, Bernadette Banner. She does historical costuming.
Oh my god, I was going to introduce you to Bernadette Banner if you weren't already aware, because she's so your type of people.
I love Bernadette Banner. I feel like we would be friends if I ever met her. Like we would vibe. And
language. Are you excited about her American Duchess shoes?
Yeah, actually, I think Sandy's gonna get some American Duchess shoes. Not those ones, but she like has a budget to buy shoes and was like, I hear these are really good quality. And I was like, yeah, dude, go for it.
Yeah, do support the awesome. Who else?
Royalty Soaps, which is they're soap making videos. This woman in Texas who has been making soap since she was a teenager and now just runs a business like making artisan soap. But she does videos where she'll say like, okay, here I am blending up the oils and now I'm going to put in this mica and here's the theme of this soap and here's the scent I'm putting in, and like they're very soothing.
Nice.
And then, the one that I think you would really like if you haven't watched already is Tasting History.
I have not watched Tasting History.
So Tasting History is, I think, a quarantine project by this guy who's a historian. His name is Max Miller. And he's very much our type of people, like very nerdy, very clean cut looking. And then he opens his mouth and you're like, oh no, you're a dork. Oh no, you're a dork. But what he does is he cooks historical recipes like from medieval and even older cookbooks. And then he talks about the ingredients and the history and why this dish is historically significant. And then he tastes it and tells you how it is.
That sounds awesome.
It's delightful.
I have hitherto really enjoyed Baumgartner Restoration, but he's trying to change up his style. And I'm like, stop doing that. Stop. If you're listening, Baumgartner, I love you. Go back to the bits where you were just doing the speed it up like time lapse of the cleaning of the canvases because that was so incredibly satisfying. Like we
I
don't need
didn't
to
mind
watch.
his last video.
I okay, I didn't watch the last one. The ones before that, or the one before that, was frustrating. The project before that, that was the big wood panel, that was fascinating. But I mean, what I'm really in there for is to watch the canvas get cleaned up in a time lapse fashion and have him talk about it while it's time lapsing, sure, but we don't need to. He doesn't need any FaceTime either. We don't need any talky head time. He doesn't need. It's not required.
I think I didn't watch the project that you're talking about, but his most recent video, was back to the time lapse thing.
Okay.
But instead of just narrating what he's doing, he's saying, "Okay, I'm going to," like he was making an interleaf lining with like a particular type of mesh, and he was like, "I could use wood or metal here, but I'm going to use mesh because it moves with the canvas." So he's just talking about why he makes the choices that he makes.
That sounds awesome. I will watch that one then. Yeah, I feel like going back to your roots. We will never get tired of watching you clean canvases, sir. It is so soothing and so motivating and beautiful. So don't worry about bells and whistles.
Yeah. Man, I really like also when he talks about like when he was restoring that, the wooden like box that opened up or whatever, and it had all the like,
I loved that.
it was so cool for him to be talking about like, here's, what I'm doing to stabilize the material, but it's
Yeah.
completely reversible. If they ever change their mind, they can always take it off again. And like,
And
yeah.
he has a delightfully dry sense of humor. There was one bit where it was several projects ago, I think, but he was like, some people think the patina that develops when a varnish gets old is part of the appeal of a painting, and they are entitled to their opinions. They are wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, all of that I love. But he was doing a lot of talky head stuff, and it was like, just do the talking while you're showing us the time lapse. That's all I need.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last one he actually even stops talking for a while he's cleaning and just puts like some soothing music behind the cleaning footage. And I'm just like, yeah, that's great. I sleep to that. Like, I'll put on Baumgartner videos and just pass right out. It's great.
I get fascinated. I'm like, I want to see it get clean. So nice. Particularly when he uncovers really bad previous restorations and has to correct for those, and I'm like, oh, I feel for you, man. I've been letting Avi watch Michael Reeves. I shouldn't. He cusses more than Samuel Jackson, but
yeah, you really probably shouldn't.
But Avi loves all the programming, and then after he's watched a few Michael Reeves videos, he spends all day like designing robots in his notebook and stuff. And I'm like,
it's probably fine. It's probably fine.
yeah. Yeah, we have this conversation a few times a week where he's like playing a game or something. He goes, what does he say? It's like Mother Farker or something. And I'm like, Avi, don't curse. He's like, I didn't curse. I'm like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
You did.
If
the intent was there.
Hey, in it. I'm not okay with it. Say flipping and I'll be all right. But the F and the K, man, that's just too close. I don't care what your vowels are at that point.
There's another one I've been watching that you'd really like, and I'm trying to think what it is. Oh, Karolina Zabrowska. Are you familiar with her?
No.
I think I'm pronouncing her last name wrong. I'm very sorry, Karolina. She is a Polish historical fashion YouTuber. So she does things like clothing try-on haul, but it's the 1600s and you're a servant. And so she's like, look, my mistress died of the plague and left me this dress. This is so exciting.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, she's
one of my favorites. Have you watched any Kamui cosplay?
Yeah, didn't I? I think I introduced you to her.
You might have. Did you see her do the shield, the Zelda shield, and talk about why?
No, I don't think I've seen that one.
It's her most German moment. She goes through the making of the shield, and then she's like, maybe you're wondering why you would spend dozens of hours and so much time and so much money and effort on this when you could just buy a Zelda shield for $20. And the answer is suffering is fun.
Oh my god, she's so funny. She's so awkward.
Yeah, and she's our kind of people. Again, like if I was stuck in an elevator with her, I don't think we'd ever run out of things to talk about. Yeah.
Nope.
So there you go. There's our recommendations for YouTubers you can try out when you get tired of this.
Indeed.
In the meantime, Treebeard was,
yeah.
I believe, bitching about how he missed the Fems.
No, we're past that. He went to sleep, and then he came back, and then he got real snarky with Merry and Pippin because they slept late.
Hey, you slept in, you bitches.
And then they ate breakfast, not because they were hungry, but just because they felt like food should be involved in breakfast.
And then he mentioned the Entmoot. Woo!
Where is Entmoot? Pippin ventured to ask. Who? Eh? Entmoot? Said Treebeard, turning around. It is not a place, it is a gathering of Ents, which does not often happen nowadays. But I have managed to make a fair number promise to come. We shall meet in the place where we have always met. Durndingle, men call it. Seriously? Seriously, that's the name you picked for this? Very serious gathering?
Oh, yeah. Let us go to Durndingle, man.
To Durndingle!
And like, there we shall moot.
You can't do that on a family podcast.
It sounds like a gay club.
It does. It sounds like a really silly gay club. Like, if I saw a place called Durndingle, I'd just be like... Oh, man. Like, why the fuck do men call it that, Treebeard? Why? What led to this
explanation right there?
Right. It is a way south from here. We must be there before noon. Before long, they set off. Treebeard carried the hobbits in his arms as on the previous day. At the entrance to the court, he turned to the right, stepped over the stream, and strode away southwards along the feet of great tumbled slopes where trees were scanty. Above these, the hobbits saw thickets of birch and rowan, and beyond them dark climbing pine woods.
I just thought of something. When later on, when Merry is talking to the person he doesn't recognize, who agrees to take him to war, he says, "Call me Durnhelm." Durnhelm means dark helmet, so Durndingle means dark
Dingle. Also, I'm sorry.
Dark helmet, yeah.
Wow, that's just destroyed that entire scene for me. Thank you.
But when they say dark, they don't mean dark. They mean unknown, like Darkest Peru or the Dark Side of the Moon, like dark.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Rick Moranis. I'm sorry, I can't not. That's not even. Yeah. Oh.
You went over my helmet?
Keep firing, assholes.
The crossover that nobody asked for, but we desperately need.
Oh my god. She's going to comb the desert. I'm also... My brain is really stuck on the phrase dark dingle. Like, if I was a character in a 1940s, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Satirical, hard-boiled detective radio play.
Yeah.
You could the name's Dingle. Dark Dingle.
Yeah. Anyway.
The minute those Ents walked in, I knew it was a moot. Anyways,
now that we've ruined several franchises for you, moving on.
it's what we do. Above these, the hobbits saw thickets of birch and rowan, and beyond them dark climbing pine woods. Soon Treebeard turned a little away from the hills and plunged into deep groves, where the trees were larger, taller, and thicker than any that the hobbits had ever seen before. For a while they felt faintly the sense of stifling which they had noticed when they first ventured into Fangorn, but it soon passed. Treebeard did not talk to them. He hummed to himself deeply and thoughtfully, and Merry and Pippin caught no proper words. It sounded like boom, 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 boora, boom, boom, dara, boom, boom, dara, boom, and so on, with a constant change of note and rhythm. Now and again they thought they heard an answer, a hum or a quiver of sound that seemed to come out of the earth, or from boughs above their heads, or perhaps from the boles of the trees. But Treebeard did not stop or turn his head to either side. They had been going for a long while. Pippin had tried to keep count of the Ent strides, but had failed, getting lost at about 3,000. When Treebeard began to slacken his pace. How bored must Pippin have been to count to 3,000, by the way?
Right?
Like, come on.
And wouldn't you be mad if that's where you lost count? You know, Mary says, "So, lovely day," and you're like, "Damn it!"
It's totally what happened, too. Let's see. When Treebeard began to slacken his pace. Suddenly he stopped, put the hobbits down, and raised his curled hands to his mouth so that they made a hollow tube. And then he blew or called through them. A great hum rang out like a deep-throated horn in the woods and seemed to echo from the trees. Far off, from several directions, a similar hum that was not an echo, but an answer.
Ooh.
Treebeard now perched Merry and Pippin on his shoulders and strode on again, every now and then sending out another horn call, and each time the answers came louder and nearer. In this way they came at last to what looked like an impenetrable wall of dark evergreen trees of a kind that the hobbits had never seen before. They branched out right from the roots and were densely clad in dark glossy leaves like thornless holly, and they bore many stiff upright flower spikes with large shining olive-colored buds. Is that an actual type of tree, or did Tolkien just make up this description?
I don't know. I bought the Botany of Middle Earth a while ago, really excited, but it ended up not actually having any useful information in it, and it was really disappointing.
Well, that's crap.
I know, right? I could read it again specifically to look for this object, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it yet.
Well, it literally just came up, so I'm not surprised.
Right.
Turning to the left and skirting this huge hedge, Treebeard came in a few strides to a narrow entrance. Through it, a worn path passed and dived suddenly down a long, steep slope. The hobbits saw that they were descending into a great dingle.
Yeah. A dark one.
Allegedly, it is dark. Is that a geographical term that I just don't know about? Is there an actual land feature called a dingle?
It must be. I mean, so Tolkien helped write the Oxford English Dictionary. He didn't make up words when he could use ones that already existed. Maybe he was trying to resurrect it. You know what nobody uses anymore? The word dingle.
To which his friend said, "Stop trying to make dingle happen." Definition of dingle by Merriam-Webster. It's also a town in Ireland, so it took me a second to find the definition here.
Okay.
Would I disable my ad blocker? No. No, I will not, Merriam-Webster. You're doing fine. You don't need my ad money. A small wooded valley or dell. It is a 13th century word.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Stop trying to make Dingle ought to be the title of this week's podcast.
Had I but known. I gotta start taking notes on the shit that we talk about so I can make some like episode notes. Because like so far in this episode, we have established that you can't have cold food for breakfast or cold drinks for breakfast.
Yep.
And Durnhelm actually means dark helmet. And that we need to stop trying to make Dingle happen.
Yes. And we've talked about some of our favorite YouTubers.
Indeed. That also. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tell you in advance that we are going to be seeing the word dingle pretty frequently in the next couple of pages. So we all need to emotionally prepare.
Just be okay with Dingle. Make peace with Dingle.
That also could be a t-shirt or cross stitch or any number of things.
Yep.
Bless this dingle.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna just put that on the back burner and move on.
Put a pin in it.
Almost as round as a bowl, very wide and deep, crowned at the rim with the high dark evergreen hedge. It was smooth and grass-clad inside, and there were no trees except 3 very tall and beautiful silver birches that stood at the bottom of the bowl. 2 other paths led down into the dingle from the west and from the east. I'm not even going to react to my laughter. We're just keeping going.
Just gonna go.
Several had already arrived. More were coming in down the other paths, and some were now following Treebeard. As they drew near, the hobbits gazed at them. They had expected to see a number of creatures as much like Treebeard as one hobbit is like another, at any rate to a stranger's eye, and they were very much surprised to see nothing of the kind. The Ents were as different from one another as trees from trees, some as different as one tree is from another of the same name, but quite different growth and history, and some as different as one tree kind from another, as birch from beech or oak from fir. There were a few older Ents, bearded and gnarled, like hale but ancient trees, though none looked as ancient as Treebeard. And there were tall, strong Ents, clean-limbed and smooth-skinned, like forest trees in their prime. But there were no young Ents, no saplings. Altogether, there were about 24, standing on the wide, grassy floor of the dingle, and as many more were marching in. At first, Merry and Pippin were struck chiefly by the variety of what they saw. The many shapes and colors, the differences in girth and height and length of leg and arm, and in the number of toes and fingers, anything from 3 to 9. A few seemed more or less related to Treebeard and reminded them of beech trees or oaks. But there were other kinds. Some recalled the chestnut, brown-skinned Ents with large splay-fingered hands and short, thick legs. Some recalled the ash, tall, straight gray Ents with many-fingered hands and long legs. Some the fir, the tallest Ents, and others the birch, the rowan, and the linden. But when the Ents all gathered around Treebeard, bowing their heads slightly, murmuring in their slow musical voices, and looking long and intently at the strangers, then the hobbits saw that they were all of the same kindred, and all had the same eyes. Not all so old or so deep as Treebeard's, but all with the same slow, steady, thoughtful expression, and the same green flicker. As soon as the whole company was assembled, standing in a wide circle around Treebeard, a curious and unintelligible conversation began. The Ents began to murmur slowly. First one joined and then another, until they were all chanting together in a long rising and falling rhythm, now louder on one side of the ring, now dying away there and rising to a great boom on the other side. Though he could not catch or understand any of the words, He supposed the language was Entish. Pippin found the sound very pleasant to listen to at first, but gradually his attention wavered. After a long time, and the chant showed no signs of slackening, he found himself wondering, since Entish was such an unhasty language, whether they had yet got further than good morning, and if Treebeard was to call the roll, how many days it would take for them to sing all their names. I wonder what the Entish is for yes or no, he thought. He yawned. Treebeard was immediately aware of him. Hey, my Pippin, he said, and the other ants all stopped their chant. Awkward! You are a hasty folk.
Start over, bitch.
I'm just picturing like that moment when they stop the meeting and like just stare at you.
Yeah.
Like, did I make that face out loud? Oh no.
Never mind. Carry on.
You are a hasty folk, I was forgetting, and anyway, it is wearisome listening to a speech you do not understand. You may get down now. I have told your names to the Entmoot, and they have seen you, and they have agreed that you are not orcs, and that a new line shall be put in the old lists. We have got no further yet, but that is quick work for an Entmoot. You and Mary can stroll about in the dingle if you like. There is a well of good water if you need refreshing, away yonder in the north bank. There are still some words to speak before the moot really begins. I will come and see you again and tell you how things are going. He put the hobbits down. Before they walked away, they bowed low. This feat seemed to amuse the Ents very much, to judge by the tone of their murmurs and the flicker of their eyes, but they soon turned back to their own business. Merry and Pippin climbed up the path that came in from the west and looked through the opening in the great hedge. Long tree-clad slopes rose from the lip of the dingle, and away beyond them, above the fir trees of the farthest ridge, there rose, sharp and white, the peak of a high mountain. Southwards, to their left, they could see the forest falling away down into the grey distance. There, far away, was a pale green glimmer that Mary guessed to be a glimpse of the plains of Rohan. All right, that's a break, and it's the only break for quite some time, so I think I'm going to pause there.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Oh, it's lovely to be back.
Indeed. Oh.
Doing a weird little creature here with a foot that is reminiscent of the zinc crow's feet. Sort of like so. Brass it out at some point, but I wanted it to look kind of frog-like, but not too frog-like, because the frogs are the lanthicides, and I don't want it to be confusing. Zinc is not a lanthicide, nor is it related to them. It's just, I like frogs.
It's just a sort of a froggy little creature.
It is. I'm a little bit worried because the actinides, I was going to do frogs and toads, right? Very decent. But the problem with that is that now I went ahead and figured out which frog would be the best for each of the lanthicides. And now it's like lanthanides. I'm always saying it wrong. But now it's words. Now they're all different enough that they might require something a little different to make it clear. People aren't going to know frog from toad. All by them.
Newts?
Newts are awesome. But we've got newts already because Scandium is a newt, and Atrium is a what the fuck do you call those with the axolotl?
Oh yeah. Well, in that case,
but I could put them in armor. They were going to be like armies. And if I make them into armies, then I can just make sure they're wearing matching insignia with all of their
You could do some really different armor styles too. Like you could put one group in like leather armor and another group in plate or something like that.
That's a really good idea. Or different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to go into like the history of so and so discovered it. So and so is from this country. This country has these old armor things that nobody else has. Like that's
Yeah.
Tie in. Bleh. Oh well. Wait, did I get? I did. Woo.
As a side note, before we wrap up for the day, I don't know if you noticed what is behind me here.
My painting?
Yes.
Yee! Also, I just noticed when I had to log myself back in that Jenny, my friend Jenny, has started contributing to my Patreon. So thank you, Jenny. I love you so much. I don't know if anybody else has, but this was a thing I just posted on Facebook. Like, for God's sake, contribute. Not in a desperate way. That's what is hard to hit. Is that that balance?
Yeah.
Like, it's not so much that I want your money as I want to know I'm not painting into a vacuum.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. It'd get very dusty.
Ha, dingle.
I'm just picturing like a cross stitch with like some trees on either side, right? Little pine trees, and then just in the middle and grass on the bottom, and then in the middle it says "Bless this dingle."
That's funny because I'm picturing like a photograph of Aerosmith with the words "Welcome to the Dingle."
Oh, Aerosmith didn't do "Welcome to the Jungle."
Right, it totally wasn't. I have like no memory for who makes what songs. It's completely embarrassing. My genius is utterly destroyed when it comes to that. I say the stupidest shit. Who did Welcome to the Jungle? Do you remember?
No.
Whoever it was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll look it up.
That's who I'm picturing, whoever they are.
Welcome to the Jungle. That was Guns N' Roses.
Sorry, Guns N' Roses.
They're doing fine.
Still love you. I actually went and looked up the reasons for Sweet Child of Mine. Was that Guns N' Roses?
Yeah.
Did I get that one right? Yeah. Because I wanted to know if it was written for a girlfriend or for a child, because people have ascribed it to, they sing it about a child. So I'm like, is that the original intent? And it's not. But the story is that Slash was doing some guitar exercises, and one of the others was like, that's a song. And he was like, no, it's fucking scales. And they were like, it's a fucking song. And he's like, oh my God, you're not going to write a fucking song about my guitar scales. And they did. and he's never liked it because all he hears when he hears do 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 do, it's just that it's like
just scale.
And the reason the outro is the "Where do we go now" is because they were literally asking, we don't know what to use for an outro, so where do we go now? Where do we go? Whoa, well, that's them singing. We don't know what to fucking sing.
We have to be quiet and get out of here fast. We have to be quiet and get out.
So now you know the history, even though I can't ascribe songs to the right bands, and it's embarrassing always.
It's perfectly fine. I was going to say something about something, and I can't remember it, but if I think of it, I will tell you next time.
Welcome to the Dingle.
I really wish I had known about this, because that would have been such a great title for this episode. I think I called this episode a Moot Point.
Oh, that's good. That's good
It's
too.
also pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done. All right. I'll see you Wednesday, I hope. If you're doing okay with work.
Yes. Yeah, this week was just a little bit unusually a lot It was just a lot.
Fair
Jesus
enough.
Christ, it was so. Anyway, the point being, next week, hopefully, it should not be so much.
Excellent. Well, I'll see you then, and I love you.
I love you too.
Cuidado.
Te amas.